I'm Matt Reynolds, and this is my podcast.
I can do the job, but running the business is quite difficult. What a lot of tradesmen lack, and I was probably one of them, is business skills.
I don't mind making mistakes. You learn from your mistakes.
Information is all around you in the minds of people that work beside you.
Welcome back to the Trench Talk podcast. I'm Matt Reynolds. I'm a plumber, and this morning I spoke with former Commonwealth Games athlete and national high jump champion of Scotland, Jayne Nisbet. The idea of these discussions, for those of you joining us for the first time, is to go into the trenches of achievement and talk, not with people who are orchestrating from some lofty perspective, but to those high performers who are actually in the trenches, honing their craft. That has included guests from the worlds of business, sport and entertainment, all of whom are on the front lines doing amazing things. As an athlete, Jayne, as I said, competed at the Commonwealth Games, but she has also revealed that she dealt with eating disorders throughout pretty much her whole career. Even when she was jumping high and performing well, one weight-related comment could affect everything she was doing. The way she looked and her weight at one point became more important than her performance. Jayne now talks openly about her struggles and has written about it in her new book called Freed, which she hopes will help others, especially young athletes, live empowered lives. We covered mental illness, including her own battles, her athletics career, dealing with injury, how her struggles affected her family and those that were close to her, the night it all turned around, book launch week, what she now eats in a typical day, and her current work helping to inspire others. If you'd like to connect with Jayne, you can find her on both Facebook and on Instagram. Of course, you can also buy her book. It's on Amazon, and you find it if you search for Freed, spelt Freed. We talked about the name, Freed, and its meaning when we spoke. Jayne has a big heart and a real passion for helping others, so I hope you enjoy my chat with Jayne Nisbet. Jayne Nisbet, thanks for doing this.
Hello. It's all right.
Now, I'm in my office this morning in Melbourne. It's very early. Whereabouts are you?
I am in London in England.
And you are at home, have I got that right?
Actually, yeah, I've just got home from work, so it is now 7:30 in the evening, our time. So very, very different to you.
Very different, but that's all good. So we're going to do this interview over Skype, obviously. Now, I wanted to ask actually initially about your Instagram account, because that's where we connected. You're very active. Do you do everything yourself? Do you do all your own posting?
I do all my own posting myself, yeah. So it can be very time consuming.
Yeah, I bet. So you do all your editing, putting it together, you do the whole lot yourself?
Yeah, absolutely everything myself.
You're obviously building a following there. What's the strategy that sits behind it? Is it have you got any thoughts on that?
At the moment, it's just trying to get followers that actually want to engage with my content. So I'm monitoring like people who are following and people who are unfollowing, and I'm just trying to get a following that actually are specific to really what I represent, to be honest. So that's kind of my strategy at the moment, is just testing things out a little bit. I'm kind of new to the whole social media side of stuff. So, yeah.
And have you done a lot more because of the book that you've just put out?
Yeah, I've been very, very active recently because of the book. But I've been, over the last probably like 12 months, I've been looking at trying to create be more like a brand in a sense. So like I'm trying to create positivity, like empowerment, self-discovery, and try and help other people like be comfortable with it, because I think a lot of people are not very comfortable in approaching that topic and actually doing self-improvement and self-discovery.
Do you mean not comfortable with engaging in it? Is that what you're saying?
That's what I mean. Yeah, so like some people are not really comfortable because they don't really know. They're uncomfortable with like discovering who they really are. Do you know what I mean? So a lot of people are like afraid of going for it, and it takes a bit of time for them to come around. So like to a lot of people, I probably seem like very irritating on Instagram, but it's because they're not ready to like go to that part of their life and work out what they want to change.
So you've got to be ready for it, in other words. Yeah,
pretty much. I think it's kind of one of these where like you can either find me really annoying because I'm like positivity, empowerment, because of like where I've come from to where I am now. So I think that's kind of my Instagram at the moment.
Now, I'm going to get into where you've sort of come from, but where you are right now, you're in the middle of book launch week. Have I got that right?
Yes. Yeah, so I launched my book 2 weeks ago on Amazon. So it's all been, I was in Edinburgh because I'm originally from Scotland.
Yeah.
So I was in Edinburgh for 3 days, 3 weeks ago, doing a lot of promo up there because that's my home country. And then I've done stuff in London last week. So it's been very, very full on couple of weeks, just keeping on top of all like my posting and social media and making sure the book's getting out there all the time.
And what does that mean for someone who's never actually done it? Are we talking appearances? Yeah, the social stuff is one side, but you're doing physical stuff as well?
Yeah, so I'm doing physical. So I've been doing different appearances. So when I went to Scotland, I'd filmed for Sky Sports, and then I'd done BBC Scotland, a documentary up there that was like a 30-minute documentary, different appearances for interviews and stuff like that. And then now it's looking at doing talks at schools and being invited in to do different things for different charities now as well, which has been really exciting. So there's a lot and stuff going on in the background at the moment.
And you're seeing a lot of doors are being opened?
Yeah, definitely. There's a lot of stuff coming up, which is very, very exciting. And I've just been shortlisted for Role Model of the Year, which was like in Scotland, which is a really nice thing to be shortlisted for. So like the awards are in 2 weeks' time. So I'm excited to see what comes of that as well.
Oh, wow. And was that a nomination, or how did that come about?
I think people nominate for it, and then I just got an email saying that I'd been shortlisted. So that was quite exciting. When I got the email through, I thought, okay, that's quite nice.
You're on the list, yes. Yeah. So anything
Yeah.
else happened that's been really surprising through that week? Because it's a big week, isn't it?
Yeah, it's quite big. Like I think I was quite overwhelmed with the amount of people getting in touch with me, like with positive feedback for the book. The amount of people contacting me. Like I did an interview the other day for UK Mental Health Radio, and it's been like really, really amazing. Like people support and a lot of people wanting to collaborate and like do more stuff to help like raise awareness of mental health. And I've made such a big impact, I think, in the last 2 weeks in terms of raising that profile again and getting people to talk about it. It's been quite overwhelming in terms of newspaper coverage, people getting in touch with me, wanting me to like go and meet them to discuss potential projects and everything like that. So it's been quite a few things going on. I'm just like, keep level-headed.
Yeah, that's right. But is that part of why you've clearly got a desire to help other people with the stuff that you've been through. So was part of the idea of putting the book together to open up these opportunities?
Yeah, definitely. So in terms of having the book was more to try and get that issue out there and help others know that there was a light at the end of the tunnel. And I guess for me, it's just the first step and the next step of my journey in terms of trying to support other people. I'm currently in the process of finishing my life coaching qualification, so that's kind of the avenue I want to go down. And the big thing is to be like running my own seminars, being on stage, like talking to people and helping motivate and encourage people to achieve like the life of their dreams and achieve their life goals. So that's kind of what I'm doing at the moment by overcoming any of my fears. Like the thought of public speaking maybe like 3-4 years ago petrifies me, but now I'm like, any opportunity to get up on stage to like try and help other people and motivate other people is my ultimate goals.
So you take whatever comes your way in terms of speaking at the moment. Well, that's good. That's
yeah.
That's
I'm
awesome.
one of these yes people at the moment. I'm like, yes, I will do that.
Now, the conversation about mental health, which I wanted to get to, can you give us a sense of London, Scotland? Where's that conversation at? Because I know here in Australia it was almost a bit of a taboo subject for a long time there, but more recently it's talked about, more widely in the press, and it's a conversation that people are more willing to have. Is it the same in your part of the world?
Yeah, it's definitely it's a massive topic in the news at the moment, and a massive topic just for everybody, being more open, actually like getting support and not being afraid of getting support. And I think there was something about I read the other day, like there's 78 million sick days lost a year from like stress, anxiety, mental health, and you think that's ridiculous. Something needs to be done about it. And so it's definitely a topic that people are talking about more, which is good because it is raising awareness. And even through some of like my book launches, and people like some of my parents' friends who are like 60, 65 have been getting in touch with me asking for support, and I'm like, my God, I didn't really realize the impact that the book might have, because I think like a lot of people see me as a really strong character anyway, but it's only they don't really know me from like my past, and to see like how far I've come. And I think a lot of people don't believe that they can get from that point to be redefining themselves to become like a stronger person and more confident person, and getting over like mental health issues and managing it and dealing with it. So it is becoming a much bigger topic here, but I still think there's just so much work to be done with it. Like it's just something that there's so many different types of mental health issues that it needs to be, I think, narrowed down a little bit, and more access to support and seminars and how to help other people that way, rather than just put them on a waiting list or put them on drugs to try and like calm them down if they've got depression. Stuff like that needs to be dealt with in a better way, like through counselling, rather than just saying, right, here, you're on a waiting list, that you'll get your therapy in a few months' time.
So your book I've just finished reading.
Okay.
And I can see that what you've tried to do is put together a system from A to B, if you like, A being maybe with what you're struggling with now, and then B, obviously where you want to go, or your dreams or the ideal life or whatever.
Yeah.
How long did it take you to put that system together?
Well, a system that, goodness, about 4 years ago, well, actually it was even longer than that, I started putting chapters together, and I'd be like, right, this is what I want to do. I want to get my story out there and just get it out there. I just needed to release it. And then about this time last year, it was actually around about this time last year, I was at a weekend where Tony Robbins was speaking, and I signed up to a book course that weekend. And when I was on the book course, like they literally help you like break down exactly what you want to get out there and how you're going to put it in a better method, basically. So originally I was just going to write this whole thing and then hope that would help people. And then I was like, wait a minute, let's break this down. Like, how is my story going to help someone? It's not. Like, I need to implement everything that I did to get better, because I think in the book I talk about how I went on a waiting list for so many months, and I was scared to go and get help because I was embarrassed about my situation. And a lot of like my recovery, I just tried to work it for myself because I didn't want to live the life I was living. And that's when I looked back at, like, I looked at, right, what were the methods I used, looked back at the strategies I used, and then like broke it down into all the chapters. And that's how I got the step-by-step guide, because I thought this is the best way to help somebody. Because when I was back then, I really wish I had this, and like I want to give this to people so they have this method that they can use. And it doesn't matter what part of their recovery or what stage of mental health they're at, if it just gives them the hope and the encouragement to actually go and get help, or if they're like they've had the help and support and they just need a bit of a push to have the motivation to understand like where they are now. And I think all the steps you can go back over and go back to the beginning and work out where you are at that point in your life. What's the most important step in that system you've put together? I would say it's the bus system. So like, who's on your bus? Oh, I like that. That's my biggest defining moment. I would say I went back to that so many times throughout my whole athletics career. Even now I do it. I'm like, right, who's on my bus at the moment? If I'm ever feeling a bit like, I'm not sure everyone's adding value right now, I'll go back through it and just be like, right, I'm definitely in the driving seat. So I always feel like I'm always in the driving seat now. But sometimes obviously you can have people on your bus that aren't adding value to you, and you've got to be quite ruthless, I think, sometimes, because you've got to be, the one thing I used to be really bad at is putting myself first, but you have to in life, you've got to. So if you're not looking after yourself, how can you expect to look after help other people? So obviously the bus chapter, yeah, can you explain the concept for someone who hasn't read the book yet? Okay, so the concept of the bus is looking at what your journey is, where you're at the moment in your journey, because where you are at the moment, you can always change where you want to go, and you can always change the direction of where you want to go. But if you've got people on your journey that aren't helping you get to your destination, or you're confused about your destination, you need to like analyze exactly where you are right now and who's on your journey at the moment and what is stopping you get to that destination. So you draw like one bus, which is like you and your bus at the moment. What's your destination right now, if there is a destination? Because when I did my first bus, they say I didn't have a destination. I was like, I don't even know what I'm doing. I don't even think I'm on the bus. And I drew the people that were on my bus at the moment and who was in the driving seat. It definitely wasn't me. And then I drew another bus of me in the driving seat, what my destination was clearly at the front of it, and exactly who I needed on that bus to help me get to that destination. And for me at that moment in time was like going to Commonwealth Games in Glasgow. And I was like, right, who do I need on that bus for me to be in that driving seat? Because I have to be in that driving seat. And who's going to help add value to my life? And who's taken away that needs to get off that bus? And how am I going to get there? So that's the concept of it.
So it's really auditing those closest to you and those around you in relation to where you want to go.
Yeah, basically. It's the saying that you're a reflection of the 5 people you spend the most time with. And I think that's so true. Like if you look at the people that you're spending time with, you do start to act like them, or if they're giving you like negative energy, you'll feel that negative energy. So you need to surround yourself with people that radiate the same energy as you, that you want. So you've got to find people that bring out the best in you, basically.
Now, I wanted to ask about your sporting journey.
Okay.
Which is where this book originates from.
Yes.
Now, you actually started off as a swimmer. How did you find your way to high jumping?
So swimming, I basically, when I was younger, I was very, very sporty throughout my whole life, and I was very, very competitive with my brother. So my brother's like 3 years older than me. So whatever he did, I wanted to do, because I was an annoying little sister. So he was like a really good swimmer. I had to go swimming. He played football. I wanted to play football. He would do tennis. I would want to do tennis. It was like an absolute nightmare for my mum. But I got into swimming because he was a very, very good swimmer. So I just went down and started swimming. I swam at like national level. And then I was about 13 and I thought, I don't want to get up at 5 a.m. in the morning to go to swimming. So I was getting to that age where you want to do your hair, you're going to school, don't want to have like wet hair at school. We were going, like, I had to go swimming before school, swimming after school. And mostly because he was doing it. So I was just like, oh. So I remember one night I came home and I just said, I don't want to do swimming anymore. My dad was like, well, until you decide what else you want to do, you're going to continue swimming, because you're not just going to be hanging around in the street. So I was like, all right, okay. So I kept swimming, and then I got talent spotted at school. So they have in Scotland, and in Edinburgh, they have a thing called the Interscholastic Games, where all the primary schools in Edinburgh would compete against each other. And at the time, they were just like, everyone's tall in each class is going to try out to do high jump. And I was the tallest girl in the class. So they were like, right, you're going to go and try and do high jump. Ended up I could do it. That was good. Went to the Interscholastics, ended up winning it. And then it sort of all went from there. And then I competed every year, just once a year, doing high jump. And I kept winning the Edinburgh like school games. So a coach from Edinburgh Athletic Club was like, I think you should come down and try training. So I decided to stop swimming because I didn't really want to do it anyway. And I went down to the track and started high jumping from there. And I wouldn't have really started properly. The first year and a half, I didn't really want to go. I didn't fit in properly. It was like, you're at that age, 14, 15, where you're a bit anxious about meeting new people. I was very, very shy. So it took a while for me to get into it. So I didn't start competing properly until I was 16, which is quite late as an athlete. And then it went from there, really, and I grew really quickly within the sport. So within a year, I was competing for Scotland at senior level. So I had my first like Scottish international vest, and then it grew rapidly from there. So I was trying to decide what university I went to. The next year I ended up winning the year I was deciding to go to university, I ended up winning a British medal, and that came out of nowhere. So we were like, right, I don't know what university to go to now, because actually this could go quite well. So I actually sacrificed going to uni. I went to university, but I lived at home so I could still train in Edinburgh. So I commuted every day to Stirling University. it went from there. I just like the passion for it became more and more. Didn't have a student life. I just wanted to be an athlete. And that's where it sort of grew from. And then at 21, I decided to move to Loughborough. And that's when everything went a bit downhill for me. So as a junior athlete, I was on funding for the Olympics, potentially in 2012. And then in 2009, that's when everything started going a bit downhill. Like, I think I'd grown so quickly in the sport that I just felt a lot of pressure to keep growing and getting better and getting better. And then I just got caught up in the bubble. So everything went a bit downhill for about 3 years. And then I got myself together and then came back for Glasgow.
So downhill, you started to go downhill. What happened at that point?
Yeah, that was when I was always one of these kids that was super slim, tall, didn't really need to worry about what I ate. And then I started in the sports industry, like actually trying to be elite. And I got caught up in people overanalyzing food, body image. I was an absolute perfectionist anyway. I had slight OCD traits in terms of diary management. Like, I had everything color-coded, time restricted, had to follow my diary to a T. And that just ended up going into how I would control my food. Everything had to be planned. And I used to convince myself that that's what you needed to be an athlete, which to an extent, yes, you do. But it became very restrictive. So I would just I would cut out foods, try and manipulate my body. And then I was looking so athletic, like my body was so lean. But for an athlete, my performance just kept going downhill. And I used to be like, why? Like, as a high jump, you need to be really light and lean. And that's what everyone else would do as well. They would always talk about like their diets and like who was the lightest. And it's quite like a harsh sport. And then I think a lot of people, in terms of like coaches as well, sometimes don't realize the stuff that they would say. And it became quite I think especially females just overanalyze a lot of stuff, and you're totally on show. So obviously when you're competing, you're in crop top, you're in pants, like you're out there on the field for people to judge you. And I just became more and more aware of it, more and more aware of other people, thought I needed to be lighter to jump higher. And then it just literally spiraled out of control, that I completely lost perception of what my goals were. It became so obsessed with like looking a specific way and wasn't so bothered about the performance. And then that's when my head just went. It was like, I was just tiny. Like, I dropped to 47 kilos. And I'm 5'8.5". So I think my BMI was down at like 14.7. And that's ridiculously low. And I never seen the issue with it. Obviously, my performance had gone downhill. And it wasn't until I started to just, when you have like mental health issues, you convince yourself that it's okay, but it's not. And you're really, really unhappy. And at that point, I was getting told I had to eat. People were like, if you don't eat, I'm going to force feed in you. I was petrified of talking to people about it. People just looked at you differently. And then I would start hiding like when I would eat, because I didn't want people to see me eating, because I felt like they'd be judging me and judging like what I ate. And it just sort of spiraled out of control from there, that I just literally went into social recluse for about 10 months. I could barely like leave my bed. I would only leave the house at abnormal hours so people couldn't see like what I was up to, what I was eating, what training I was doing. And that probably went on for about 8 to 10 months. From that point, I hit a point one night that basically I just didn't want to be here anymore. And I remember the doctors had put me on Prozac basically to try and calm down your thoughts, because when you say that you've got an eating disorder, they think if they give you antidepressants, it's going to help rationalize your brain. But unfortunately for me, it had the absolute adverse effect. So I was so like not myself, because I am like a really upbeat, bubbly person. So it suppressed my personality even more. So I just was like completely not myself, didn't want to be here. So I literally texted my mom and was just like, I can't do this anymore, switched my phone off, and just I disappeared. I talk about it in the book. I just disappeared out into the woods for hours, just hoping something would happen to me, or I would just freeze or anything. And then it was just like a light, for some reason that night, like it was like one of these nights, it was crystal clear evening, and I had so many thoughts going through my head, and I was like, Jayne, like, you cannot let this beat you. Like, why are you letting this beat you? This is ridiculous. Like, this isn't you. And then I got back, and I was like, probably about 4 hours later, and I made this decision. I was like, I cannot let this beat me. Like, this, I'm worth so much more than this. Like, and that's when I was like, I need to sit down and analyze exactly what is going on now and how I'm going to do it. And it wasn't easy. I had I would say that you get 2 days, and then you'd have a bad day, and then another 2 days and have a bad day. But then each time it was like maybe like 4 days before I had a bad day, and then 5 days before I had a bad day. And it took a bit of time to realize that actually that was progress, because every time you had a bad day, you'd beat yourself up about it, and you could maybe have a bad day for a few days because you'd like got 3 days down and you're like, oh, I've ruined it now. So it was quite a long process back to being healthy, and I had this massive stigma about the word healthy, because somebody said to me that we're healthy, and at that point I knew I was overweight, because I'd gone from 47 kilos to 65 kilos. Because when you're eating again, you have to put on weight. Your body obviously has been in like starvation mode for such a long time, so when you do eat, your body then stores everything, so you put on like double the weight. And it was like horrible. I don't even have pictures. I hated getting my picture taken in that period of time. I was like, I don't want anyone to see me.
So at what point through that period did you realise in yourself that you had something you needed to deal with in terms of a mental health issue? Is there a point when you sort of thought, hang on a second, there's something going on here that's not quite right?
It was probably the day I admitted. So the day I admitted I had an issue, I remember I literally just thought, I phoned a friend and I was like, I literally am losing the plot. I've got voices in my head. There's like a battle between. Have you ever read The Chimp Paradox by Dr. Steve Peters?
No, I haven't.
Oh, okay. So this book is unbelievable. You should definitely read it. But it talks about like your chimp and your human brain. So like the frontal, your front part of your brain, and your like the chimp part of your brain. So you need to control your chimp basically, and let your human be like the thinker. But everyone has a chimp, and like it's like almost like two voices that basically like your chimp thinks irrationally, whereas your human thinks rationally. But when like all your chemicals are messed up, then your chimp's like basically your front like is the overriding voice in your head. So it will like tell you like you're not good enough. It will like tell you to be fearful of things and stuff like that. So it was sort of that day, the day I admitted, it was like, it must be actually, what's the date today? Something like the October the 29th, so yesterday, like 8 years ago yesterday.
Oh wow!
I was just, I know, that's so weird. I literally was just like, I've lost the plot. I've completely lost the plot. I can't do this. And I phoned one of my friends. Like, I would be at work, and I worked as at that point I was just doing some part-time work as in a restaurant. So I was like serving, and I would like hide food because I didn't want people to see me eat. So like I'd eat a lunch, and I would like take food and hide it, and then like eat it in secret. And it was like, this is just so ridiculous. Like, why do you think like this? It's so stupid that I was just living such a like hidden life that it felt just like a complete lie, and I was so unhappy. And I think it was the unhappiness aspect of it. Like I've never been at that point where I was just so unhappy with like everything to do with me, and I didn't want to be around people, and that was like not normal for me because I used to be such a people person. So, and that was like when I was just like, I've got to sort this.
So that's when you were catching yourself going, hang on a second, this is not right. This is something that needs to be changed, and and I'm unhappy.
Yeah. I think the key thing was like I was definitely unhappy, but it took a long period of time from that point for me to really get to grips with it. So it was like it would have been for the point of admission, it actually got a lot worse, like a lot worse. Like I'd almost gone, oh yeah, I've got an eating disorder. I've admitted it now. Everyone knows I've admitted it. but people looked at you differently and just expected you to change. Everyone just expected me to be okay again, but it's not as simple as that. And that's the issue with it is the issue with an eating disorder, because people who don't have it, or like don't have mental health issues, really struggle to understand why someone can't just snap out of it. And I think that's another thing that what I'm trying to raise awareness of, is to try and help others. And like my parents, like they really, really struggled. Like they didn't understand and they found it really hard. So they would like get upset about it. And because they got upset about it, I would get upset about it, because I was like, I can't believe I'm putting them through this. And a lot of girls who get in touch with me about their issues, because that was another reason why I really wanted to write the book, because I had a lot of people getting in touch with me about getting help, and I'm like, I can't give everyone the support. Like I've got busy doing all this stuff individually, I can't help everyone. So if they all say like their parents are ashamed of them, and like your parents aren't ashamed of you, your parents are just struggling to understand how to help you. And I think that's the thing. Another thing that really needs to be dealt with is that it's not just anybody going through mental health issues. It's there needs to be support for family and friends to like how to deal with someone with a mental health issue, because the more you go on at them, like, why isn't this sorted? Like, why aren't you better? What have I done? Like, my mum used to say, I can't believe I've allowed you to get to this point. And I'm like, it's not your fault. And I think it's having like almost support for family and friends as well, of how to help a loved one through it.
Yeah, because your condition obviously does affect all those close to you, right? I mean, that just is part of it, I guess. Now, at your very worst point, it just to sort of paint a further picture, you started timing, and you write about this in the book. So you were timing when you went to the toilet, so nobody knew. You were consuming a lot of laxatives and all that sort of stuff. So it was pretty low at that point.
Yeah, it was very, very low. Like I remember like I could sleep for days. Like I would have days where I literally would wake up in the morning and I'd be like, I can't face today at all. I would like, right, I'm going to try and have breakfast. I'd have breakfast. It would trigger a binge. Then I would binge, and then I would just like literally be like, I can't leave the house. Like I would just sit and cry. Then I'd email college and be like, I can't come in. And then I'd have to just go to sleep. And I think a lot of that was to do with the tablets that they put me on as well. But again, it still wasn't addressing the issue. Like when you look at everything I talk about in the book, it's like you've got to address your issues. And when I eventually went for help, half of it wasn't even to do with things I thought it would have been. It was looking at what's your saddest moment in life. Remember, one of the things my therapist first asked me, it was like, what's your saddest moment in your life? And you're like, oh my God. And then another one, he was trying to like break down like why I had this fear of perfection, and like why I had a fear of what everyone thought of me. And one of them was like, it related all the way back to when I was 6 years old in class. And I talk about this in the book as well. And I put my hand up to ask for help, and the teacher must have been having a bad day and just said, are you stupid? And like basically ridiculed me in front of the class. And I remember I had nightmares about it for like weeks, and I was only 6 years old. And it was like, that's crazy that something like that can make you, it could be like an underlying trigger from like when you were 6, which then affects you like all the way through to like being an adult. It's like ridiculous. So yeah.
So and you had a few trigger points, that being one of them, and obviously the overanalyzing, as you said, from your coaches and the sporting community sort of sent you down this path for whatever reason. It came together, and that's what happened.
Yeah.
At the height of your training, what was your schedule like? Because it was a pretty big load, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was, especially leading into the last few years. I think it's even like after my sporting career, I've taken a lot of time to like develop myself and like look at and analyze my life. And I think for a lot of my like last few years of my career, I used to keep myself so busy that I couldn't deal with my thoughts. So I knew like a way of me not having to deal with like my head would just be like to just basically keep myself busy. So my training though, because I ran my own PT business as well as being a full-time athlete, and everyone used to say you're mental for doing like all this stuff. My coach just knew like if I didn't have everything going on, like I probably would just not have been as good an athlete. So like my training load, I would have been training on a Monday, I would have been doing a technical session in the morning. That would have been 2 or 3 hours. And then in the afternoon, I would have been doing like a speed specific session. So again, another 2 hours. Then on a Tuesday, I'd be training for about 3 hours. Wednesday, again, for about 5 hours. Thursday, 3 hours. Friday, 5 hours. Saturday would have been like 3 hours. And then I'd have a rest day on a Sunday. But then around that, I was working a like 35 to 40 hour a week business as well.
So you used a lot of distractions, so you didn't have to think about or deal with a lot of this stuff, I suppose, in hindsight.
Yeah.
Is how it transpired.
Yeah.
When you were jumping, what was your personal best?
My personal best was 187, and
Okay.
I think which is 187 meters, but I should have jumped much higher. So I never fulfilled my potential, which I guess is a kind of regret, but it's not. At the same time, I was ready to stop because there was other stuff I wanted to achieve in my life. But probably the year before Commonwealth Games, I had an accident in the gym because I was tired and didn't listen to my body, because I was like an over analytical athlete, so I'd always have to complete the sessions that I had set out. And I was tired one evening, and I said to my coach, like, oh, I'm not sure I should do my session. And he was like, well, if you're really tired, you shouldn't do it. And I was like, oh, I'm just going to do it because it's my last weight session of the season. I went into the gym, stepped up onto the step-up box, and my ankle went on top of the box, and I fell back to the floor with 75 kilos on my back in a sitting position and compression fracture in my spine, like 1 year out from the games. And I remember thinking, I was in the shape of my life at that point, so I'd been consistently jumping 185, 185, 185, and I was like ready to jump 190, and that was less than 12 months out from the games. And I'm thinking, oh my god. So it took quite a bit of time to get back from that. So I had 12 weeks that I wasn't really able to do very much apart from sitting on a bike and just doing rehab, and I couldn't jump till the November, which was quite. So this is the end of June, beginning of July, I hurt my back, and I couldn't jump again till the November. So they had like 2 months of prep, but I'd done so much conditioning, and I came out into the indoors, and then jumped to PB first competition. We're like, what? This is crazy. So from there, my indoor PB was 187, and then that day I should have jumped 190. And then one comment triggered my training from the indoor to outdoor, because I actually competed at a heavier weight to what I normally would have competed at. So it's about 2k heavier than what I would have competed at normally. But I jumped to PB, and then someone had said to me, like, well, you look a bit heavier than normal. And then it literally set my head off, like, what? Like, are people noticing? Like, and then for about 4 weeks, I started analysing things again, because at that point I was getting a lot of media in terms of talking about the issues and stuff like that, and it was sending my head, like, I was like, I don't really know how to deal with this. So my coach pulled me aside and was like, do not allow this year to be the year that you allow this to affect you. And I was like, oh. So I had to like take a step back, and I actually took a few weeks back off. Like, I didn't stop training, but I didn't compete for about 4 weeks just to like calm my head down. And then I came back out, and then I had Commonwealth Games, final, qualifying straight through, first time through everything. And unfortunately in the final, when I was like in the best shape ever, I fractured my foot in the final. So it was very frustrating.
Was that the first jump of the final?
No, so what happened was, I had basically the year before, when I hurt my back, when I stepped onto the box where my ankle went, we were so busy looking at my back that we didn't really analyse my ankle that much and do much rehab with it, because I couldn't, because of my back. So one of my ligaments was really, really weak. And I had a training session about 3 months out from the games where I was doing ankle drills, and then literally rolled my ankle. And because obviously it was leading to the games, I was like, I don't really want to take time off. So my physio was like, we'll just strap it. But because my foot was strapped in that position, like week in, week out for competing, it was obviously, it's not a natural movement through the foot. So just through repetitiveness on my foot being strapped up, I didn't really think about it in the final because I was taking painkillers for it anyway. And it wasn't until after I got out of the field and I was like, my foot is killing me. And we took my shoe off and my foot was just massive. It was like a huge lump, like up the top of the foot. So then I was in a boot for 4 weeks. after that. So I was a bit gutted.
After the final?
Yeah.
And did you complete the final? Did you do all your jumps?
No, I didn't. Well, I did. No, I didn't complete all my jumps. No.
Because of the foot. Have I got that right?
But we're not really sure. Do you know, like something didn't feel right, and at the time I was just really emotional.
Right.
But when we look back, then obviously because of my foot, afterwards I was like, well, that probably didn't help. Contribute to everything. So yeah.
One of the things that I found a little interesting about your story was that even though you dealt with a hell of a lot during your career mentally, one of the things you did so well was that you transitioned out of the sport very well, which is interesting because it's often talked about here in Australia, and I guess globally as well, that there's a real problem that surfaces with many athletes when they have to step out of the limelight and go back into a normal life.
Yeah.
So how did you get that part so right when you dealt with so much before that? It's totally the opposite, right?
Yeah, quite a lot of people ask me this. Like, I have quite a lot of athletes that get in touch with me about it too. I think the thing is, throughout sport, like when you're in the sport and you're in a bubble and it's safe and you don't really there's no encouragement to create a life for yourself out with it either. So you're in this bubble. You're not really trying to create something that's a backup. And because of Commonwealth Games in Delhi, when I wasn't there, that's when I set up my business, because I was like, I need another focus. And that's when I was really, really ill, and I was like, right, I have to make sure that I'm sorted for Glasgow. And I set up my PT business, so I already had a backup for when I'd stopped. But even then, I didn't just want to be a PT forever. So I guess when I stopped, I was in a bit for 4 weeks. I signed up for a mud run to just do something completely different. And initially for me, it was only to take a year out of jumping and then go back in. So I was going to start training again in the January to jump and then try and compete again at the Commonwealth Games. But then basically what happened for me was that I started running, and then I really, really enjoyed running. And I thought, well, this is a bit different. And everyone was thinking, why are you taking up running? And I remember a few times I thought, I don't know why I'm doing this, but I'm going to start jumping in January again anyway, so it's fine. I'm just going to keep rolling with it. And then I got really into it. So then I did a mud run. Do you know, those obstacle races?
Yeah. I
ended up winning it. And everyone was like, who is this person? Some of the, there is actually a thing called the Mudstacle League. I didn't know about it. And then
I've never heard of it.
I know. So I'd never heard of it. I just did one of these races, and they were really annoyed because I stole the points.
They
were like, who are you? I was like, oh, just a high jumper. And then so then I started running, and I sort of within 8 months I did a 10k, and I ran my first ever 10k in 40 minutes. And then I did a half marathon 3 months later. And I ran my first ever half marathon in 1:27. And everyone was like, how on earth have you gone from being a 187 high jumper to a half marathon in less than 130 within less than 12 months? I'm like, I really don't know. So then for me, I was like, I'm just going to continue with this because I'm really, really happy. I find it makes me happy, and it takes the pressure away from, I've got another focus, and I'm going to try and keep building on myself doing something different. So I've got new targets and new goals that way. But it's no pressure. Was I think a lot of athletes just stop. They just stop doing anything and don't set themselves another target, and they don't have a career backup, and they don't know what they want to do next. So they go into depression. And I've seen so many people either clinging on for dear life later on in age because they don't know what else they want to do, or going into getting depression because they've gone from this lifestyle of every weekend they're away traveling on the circuit, or they've always got an excuse or something. So I've got training tomorrow, so I can't do that. So I think it's a massive thing that worldwide that there needs to be some form of athlete support for retirement, whether that's getting them into coaching or put them through a personal training qualification while they're still doing sport, giving them vocational qualifications so they can actually set something up or run a business or get into speaking or get into schools and do promotion that way.
So it's really having a goal or a focus without pressure that you think helps that transition. Is that also a safeguard then against initially being affected with mental health? And I know that's a big question, but is that part of it?
I'm not really too sure. I guess so. Like, I think, obviously, coming from a really high-pressured environment and, like, a really fast-paced, goal-setting environment, if you go from that to absolutely nothing, then, of course, you're going to feel it's totally alien to people. Like, they think, oh, you could go from being in the papers, getting sponsorship, like, you've got people giving you nutritional deals, everything like that. So all of a sudden, nothing. You've got to buy your own trainers. You're buying your own like protein products. You're not traveling the circuit every weekend. You've got to actually pay to go away. Because when you're traveling the circuit, obviously you get everything paid for. Your flight's paid for. So I guess like a lot of athletes probably take a lot of stuff for granted, and then they hit the real world, and it's not what life is like. And it's like, and people don't really care. They're like, well, who do you think you are, sort of thing. So I guess it is a safeguard to like stop mental health, but it's also a safeguard to try and help the transition so they do have a career after sport.
Now, you're probably should say the book name, right? Freed, which is spelled FEREED.
Yeah.
How did you come up with the title?
It came, I don't know, one day I was just like, this is an amazing name. So it talks about freedom and like freeing yourself from like your thoughts, and obviously it's called Free Yourself from Self-Sabotage and Start Living Your Life Again. And so eating disorders is short for ED, so ED. And so the reason it's called Free-ED is freedom from an eating disorder. But I really like the catchiness of it being called Freed, because it's about freedom in your life and creating freedom and finding freedom in yourself and freeing yourself from your brain. And that's the main reason I came up with the title. For ages I've been like, what am I going to call it? And then one day I was just like, this is what I want to call it. And then that was it. I was like, I'm sticking with that title. And it's sort of gone from there. So
if you could click your fingers and have it all done, where do you see yourself in 10 years from this point?
10 years from now, oh goodness, I'll be 39, which is a bit scary. I see myself in by 10 years is like to be running my own seminars and to try and help, especially like younger females, be able to. There's a next thing I want to do is sort of target teenagers and like how to create self-respect and self-worth throughout high school, because school is just for female can just be horrific. It is the same for guys, but I think girls are really, really bitchy at a younger age. So targeting that, and then running my own seminars in terms of targeting mindset, fitness, nutrition, and fashion all in one. But doing like running seminars worldwide and speaking worldwide about like female self-worth and self-respect, basically.
So all about building self-esteem. Would that be a good way to summarise that?
100%. Yeah, the self-esteem building and doing like basic work, trying to create like our environment and a brand that helps. I'm focusing mostly on females to help females understand and learn to be themselves and learn to love themselves for exactly who they are. And it's the same for guys as well, so it can be related into like to guys too, but I'm looking at it from a female's perspective in terms of, I think you've probably seen on Instagram, like I call it Beautiful You, trying to learn to become like beautifully yourself, so being happy by being you and fully expressing who you are, and learning not to care about what other people think. Because for me, obviously, when you read through my story, like I was just a massive perfectionist, worried about what everyone thought about me, used to like limit myself because I think, oh well, what is that person going to think? And now I'm just like, people are like, you're crazy, and I'm like, and at least I'm fun. Like, so I just don't. I like sort of bring this energy into the room that I'm like, right, come on, guys. Like, and everyone else says to me, you're always smiling. And I'm like, well, what's there not to smile about? When you start taking control of your life and start like living life as you've got nothing to hide. You've got nothing to be afraid of, because it doesn't matter. Like, some people are going to come in and try and bring you down, but as long as you know who you are and know what you want and what sort of person you're trying to attract in, you're happy and you're comfortable with what you bring to the table, basically.
So about being about being yourself rather than shooting for some idealistic character or person or whatever. So that's awesome. Do you have any advice for, you've been tremendously successful sporting wise and then post your career as well? Do you have any advice for young men and women who are just beginning their working lives but are dedicated to building a successful career?
Yeah, I would say always use the power of self-development and self-reflection. Like, you always need to keep learning and working on you. And I think a big thing for me, and I always post it on Instagram, is gratitude and self-reflection. So like at the beginning of the day, I'll always sit down and like look at, right, this is what I want to achieve today. What am I feeling good about? Like what went well yesterday, what didn't go so well yesterday, what do I want to achieve today, and what am I looking forward to today? And then at the end of the day, looking at like what am I grateful for. And I'm always learning and developing and reading and like speaking to other people. Like I barely ever, like I used to always like watch TV. Like I never watch TV anymore. Like I'd rather have conversations with people, or like go out for dinner and speak to people, or engage with people, or speak on the phone. I will never, like, I don't see the point in watching TV anymore, because I just think, why people are so like caught up in fake life. Like, get out and live your life. And I think especially for the younger generation coming through, like, get off computer games, get outdoors and actually experience life and discover life. And if you keep discovering yourself and go on a journey of self-discovery, then you're going to like build a life of your dreams, because you're always developing you.
And you use a list at the start of the day, you said, and then you review it at the end of the day.
Yeah. So at the beginning of the day, I'll sort of sit down and go, right, this is what I want to achieve today. And at the end of the day, I'll look at like, what have I achieved? I mean, not every day I'm going to achieve everything, but I can be like, right, tomorrow I need to prove on X, Y, and Z. And I'm actually, at the moment, I'm working on a planner, because so many people get in touch with me like, what planners do you use? And I was like, right, I'm going to create my own planner. So I'm literally at the moment just designing my own planner. So it's going to be called like 90 Days to a Beautiful You. So it's sort of looking at, it takes 30 days to create a habit, 60 days to consolidate a habit, and then 90 days for the habit just to become a day-to-day thing. And looking at like reflection of, how do you feel about yourself today? What could you improve? Like what thoughts made you feel good? What thoughts made you feel bad? What situations made you feel good? What people made you feel good? Stuff like that. So reflecting on like all parts of your day. And I think like a lot of it's being grateful for the moment that you're in, at the moment where you are right now, because I think a lot of people can be negative towards situations or beat themselves up. And I mean, I used to be, when I'd be like, why is this happening to me? Like, why am I ill? Like, why? Just asking like why. But it's like, well, there's no point sitting there asking why, because you're the only person that can change your life. No one can change your life for you. So by being grateful for where you are and appreciating the exact moment that you're in, and you're going to face struggles. I've not had an easy ride. Like the last few years, I've always been like working on myself. And whenever things get like, I feel stressed or like things aren't going great, I sort of take a step back and go, right, this is where I'm at. Where do I want to be? Like, how am I going to get to that point now? So yeah, so self-gratitude and daily reflection is really, really vital thing that I think everyone should get into from a young age.
It's amazing in stressful situations, isn't it, how many of them can so simply be solved by just slowing down, stopping, taking a deep breath, and then writing a few things down, which sounds very simple, and it's not always easy when you're in that situation. No. But as soon as you can get yourself to the place where you actually do it, good things tend to happen almost immediately. So that's not the first time that's come up on this podcast, that's for sure.
Okay, cool.
Do you have just a couple more questions, Jayne, and then I'm going to let you get back to your evening?
Okay.
Do you have any favourite book or documentaries that you recommend?
My favourite book is what's it called? The Slight Edge. It's on my top 10 recommended reads. I've got so many favourites though. There's The Slight Edge and Robin Sharma, The Monk Who Sold His Ferrari.
Oh, yeah.
Because that was an eye-opening read for me. I was like, wowzers, like you are literally, everyone lives in this world now where it's so overcomplicated, and we all need to just simplify life and appreciate life for what it is and appreciate every moment. And that was an eye-opening book for me, and he's one of my favourite speakers as well. A really, really good documentary is Tony Robbins' documentary on Netflix. I think it's called Unleash the Power.
I'm not your guru.
I'm Not Your Guru, that's it. And he does like a seminar called Unleash the Power, which he's doing in London next year. But that's one of the documentaries I would recommend watching as well. Yeah,
I've seen that documentary. I've actually watched it a couple of times. It's good. I like his work.
Yeah.
So a question that I ask everyone, Jayne, if you could have one law changed, what would it be?
Law change. I'm trying to think what laws are implemented at the moment. Can it be like a really simple thing?
It can be as simple or as complicated as you want to make it, yeah.
So I think in terms of like taxing healthy food, I think that should be changed. I think tax should be higher on bad foods. I think it should be there should be no tax on healthy food, because it would just encourage more people to live a better life, basically.
Oh, so that's a strategy. I'm not sure what it's like in Scotland and in England,
Yeah.
but we have really high taxes in Australia on tobacco, alcohol, the bad stuff, if you like. So
Yeah.
you're talking about applying that same rationale to foods in terms of their health and nutritional content.
Yes, basically, because with over here, like high fat, high sugary foods are like low, like are cheaper, and then anything that's healthy is like super expensive. So obviously it discourages people from eating healthy because they just can't afford to eat healthy, but they can afford all the rubbish. So I think they should switch it round. And yes, it might cost like a little more to manufacture stuff, but I think it would encourage more people to be healthier.
What do you eat today? What's a typical sort of day look like?
Oh, so what did I eat today? So now I live in London, I'm a nightmare because I'm like, well, there's healthy things in every corner. So I'm just like, I really should prep my food. But so this morning, what did I have this morning? I had first thing, so I went out for a run and I got back, and then I had smoked salmon, avocado on gluten-free bread because I've got celiac disease. And then I was at work, and then I had a green detox juice and these like coconut energy balls. I eat quite a lot. It's quite funny. And then I had for lunch. What did I have for lunch? I had a chicken salad, like with coconut and sesame seeds and pumpkin seeds all into one with like quinoa for lunch. And then this afternoon I had some. What did I have this afternoon? My favourite thing at the moment is like I'm really into like chocolate covered Brazil nuts. It's like my
nice, yeah.
mid afternoon hit. And then tonight, what have I had tonight? I had for my dinner, I had like sweet potato, feta, quinoa. I actually had quinoa again, and then like spinach, kale, and beetroot for my dinner. So yeah, quite healthy day. That's like the standard day though. Yeah, that's standard now. Like I have like a little chocolate hit in the middle of the day because I love chocolate. Everyone laughs at me. They're like, you always have a bit of chocolate. I'm like, it's just like my chocolate hit in the afternoon.
I love my chocolate too, so I totally get that. Do you have any, I wasn't going to ask this, but do you have any issues now like with your eating, considering, where you've come from? Does it ever play in your mind from time to time, or is it something that you feel you've dealt with and is now completely in the past?
I feel like it's something I've massively dealt with. When I'm highly stressed, if I'm super, super stressed, I can sometimes think, oh, I'm overthinking this, or I could maybe like be like, I've not eaten for a few hours, or like have I eaten today? Because I've been like super stressed with other stuff that my mind's not on it. And then I know like, oh my goodness, I have to like stop this now and I can't allow myself to get out of control. So I am aware, but I don't have any issues in terms of negative thoughts towards food. I'm like, oh my goodness, I've not eaten. I need to make sure I've eaten because I'm really, really hungry. I'm quite a foodie now. Like I celebrate the fact that I can now enjoy food and I can go out for dinner and it doesn't faze me, it doesn't affect me. But last summer I got diagnosed with celiac disease, and that was like a bit of a panic for me because for the first time in years I had to actually look at what the content of food was, and for like maybe a short period of like 2 or 3 weeks I was really, really like panicking that like I was like I don't like having to look at stuff because I was having to look at the content. I started looking at the calories, and very, very quickly I just said to one of my friends, I was like, right, I need to tell you this now because I need to snap out of it, but I'm feeling very, very anxious about the fact that I'm having to like watch what I eat because of like I'm having to look out for gluten and weight and stuff like that. So that was only probably like a phase of like 3 weeks, and I snapped out of it and I was like, come on, Jay, you need to sort this out. So I am aware if I haven't eaten enough, I'm like, you've got to make sure you've eaten, but I've not got any issues in terms of being able to enjoy myself and not have to think about it. I don't really think about it anymore at all.
So that's interesting that you caught yourself when you had to start overanalyzing again for your health, that's when that's when you caught yourself and said, okay, we need to get on top of this, and obviously you have, and you did, which is an awesome skill set to have, isn't it? Because it must give you a lot of self-satisfaction now that something like that can come up, and that you have the tools in your toolkit to not run away and hide, but to face it head on and deal with it, and and get on with it.
Yeah, I feel like I'm quite good at that whenever situations chuck to me now. Like, I feel like it's one of my biggest strengths, that like I can sometimes, whatever situation I'm in, if I feel like anxiety towards a situation, I'll just take a step back, analyze it, look at it from like a rational perspective, and then be able to step back in and be like, right, it's okay. So it doesn't matter what situation I'm in, whether it's at work or like I've got a target I need to hit, or even like with the book stuff. Like, I was so busy at one point, I was like, my brain is going to explode. And then I was like, it's okay, just sit down and analyze and it'll be fine. So yeah.
Now, where can we find the book? It's on Amazon. Is it anywhere else?
It's just on Amazon at the moment. So if you go onto Amazon, you can either put my name in, or you put Freedom with FREE-ED, and you can get it on Amazon on either Kindle download or on print copy. Anything
you want to add before we wrap up, Jayne?
I think just if you go and buy the book, I think it's just really, really useful for any element of life. You don't need to have an eating disorder to read it. It will hopefully help you with analysing areas of your life that you even want to improve on, or like setting a goal that you want to achieve. So it's a step-by-step guide for anybody in any area of your life to basically overcome whatever's stopping you, like achieving what you want to achieve, and hopefully push you forward and inspire you to actually step up and face your fears and achieve your goals.
And out of the book, you're doing some speaking. You've formed a few online groups and that as well, I know of. If someone wants to get in contact with you, how do they do that?
They can either send me, obviously you can contact me via Instagram. So on my Instagram, you can just send me a direct message. On Facebook, I'll link in the book anyway to the Facebook group. Or you can email me directly, which is jane@beautifulyou-u.co.uk. So it's BEYOUTIFUL-u.co.uk.
Got it, and I'll make a note of that as well.
Fab, thank you.
No problems at all. I'm going to let you get back to your evening, Jayne. Thanks again for carving out a little bit of your time for doing this.
No, thank you.
I wish you all the best with your the new chapter of your career, if you like, and everything that you're trying to do. I think it's really admirable. And thanks again for this morning. It's been a blast.
Thank you so much for having me.
Hey everybody, it's Matt again. Thanks for listening. Just a couple of things before you guys clock off. You can get all Trench Talk episodes at xrm.com.au/podcast. You can also sign up for other goodies at the same site. Just plug your email in there and you are covered. That's X for X-ray, R for Romeo, M for Mike.com.au/podcast. If you really like what I'm bringing you, please head to iTunes, subscribe to this show, and leave a review right there. And lastly, if you want to contact me directly, type the @ symbol followed by Mr. Matt Reynolds into your search bar and you'll find all the social links. Goodbye.